I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. What makes a brand experience unforgettable? Laura Parkinson, Global Head of Brand Experience at LinkedIn, has created standout experiences at Apple, Google, and now LinkedIn. She leads the team behind the company's most influential moments, both online and in person, and knows how to turn bold ideas into connections that inspire and stick. My interview with Laura Parkinson is coming right up. But first,
are you tired of juggling multiple software tools to manage your agency? Say hello to Deltek Workbook, the ultimate solution for marketing and communication agencies. With Workbook, you can streamline your projects, resources, and finances all in one place. Imagine real-time dashboards and reports giving you full visibility into your projects, people, and financials. Plan your team's capacity weeks in advance to avoid bottlenecks while staying on budget to maximize project margins. Plus, Workbook works perfectly for both agencies and in-house marketing teams looking to boost efficiency and profitability. And here's the best part. At PCI, we're a certified Deltek partner and reseller offering expert implementation, integrations, and ongoing support to ensure your success. Want to see how Deltek Workbook can transform your operations? For a free consultation, visit pci.us/podcast today. That's pci.us/podcast.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Laura Parkinson, welcome to On Brand.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me today.
I'm excited to chat. And as we talk about your work in experience, it does make me take a step back and think, how does someone decide, I want to go into experience?
Yeah, for me, it was really natural, just really being a people person. And I think paying so much attention to what was happening in kind of like the advertising side of the world, and then really seeing how that started to translate to IRL in real life experiences really just piqued my interest. So, from the earliest days of working at South by Southwest and getting an eye on brands across kind of the scope and different verticals, it ignited a passion in me that I have just continued to foster over the years. So,
you mentioned South by Southwest, and your bio goes through Apple, Google, and now LinkedIn. And I think all of these are like the brand all-stars. And are there common threads that you've observed in how these influential brands show up?
Definitely. I mean, I think if you think about the brands and what you kind of know about them externally, a lot of that can ring true in either like how a brand experience is brought to life, or, how we think about the brief kind of internally. So if you think about the brand Apple and what we know and love about Apple and the iPhone and how it just kind of works seamlessly, you open it, it like prompts you, you're good to go, you're following, and then it just works in the day to day. That is exactly how we thought about experiences at Apple. Behind the scenes, we worked extra hard to just make it feel like intuitive to the user, or in that case, the attendee. So taking extra steps like knowing that an attendee might have a broken leg. How do we get ahead of that so they don't feel that, but we come across as a brand in this like caring, considerate way. And all those little touch points, much like the iPhone, kind of bring it to life in an authentic way, I would say. And that would ring true for like a Google and LinkedIn as well, in kind of their own ways.
So you talk about Apple and the iPhone, and I have my podcast reminder here to put it over here and face down, so I'm not distracted by the flashes that may pop up. But I bring that up because it's this very tactile item that many of us are reaching for first thing. With a brand like a Google and a LinkedIn, where we think of them perhaps as, well, definitely as online brands first, does that, when it comes to experience, flip how you're thinking about any of that?
I mean, I think if you think of the landscape that we're in today, I think the future of branding and brand experiences is going to become even more important from that, kind of over indexing on digital channels. And we've started seeing this internally as well as like such a strong focus on in real life experiences, making humanizing a brand, making it more tangible so that folks can really put a face to a name type thing. And it's definitely a big part of my strategy moving forward, and I think will continue to be in the landscape.
So, when it comes to LinkedIn, you're responsible for some of the company's most visible touch points. And I think most of us think about LinkedIn.com, but then are like, oh, what are the other touch points? So, how would you describe the brand experience portfolio?
Yeah. You know, I think that traditionally LinkedIn has been a very B2B focused company and love that, continue that always. One part of kind of the scope I'm really excited about and where we're taking things is using experiences as a marketing channel in terms of anytime we are, trying to take a product to market or trying to take a campaign live, how can experiences come into that fold, have a seat at the table, and really be leveraged to help further results across that stack. And so you'll see things like us popping up at creator events as an extension of a campaign or an integrated marketing effort. You'll see us, particularly speaking to a more niche audience to try and help them understand the product feature that we're bringing to market. And so I think the front row seat that experiences has at that table at LinkedIn is just so remarkable and important.
I love that. And you mentioned it being a part of experience, being a part of the marketing mix. And with being a big organization, there are advantages, but there may also be challenges in terms of just the size of the organization. And with experience being such a unique part of the mix, when it comes to is how the organization is organized, talk about saying something something better. But um, you know, say more about how experience is organized when it comes to marketing, when it comes to brand. And I think there's some of these things that, especially at a larger organization, can get pretty complicated pretty fast.
Yeah. One thing that I think about a lot is how to have impact at scale, being such a modest kind of function and compared to the ambitions and the amount of experiential that folks across the company want to do, whether they're having a foundation in the practice or not. And so I think that as we continue brand building efforts kind of cross functionally in partnership with other teams, we have this opportunity to kind of put pillars and practices into play that folks can take and run with in their own context. Like, how can we productize kind of this brand experience that we have built centrally and roll it out to others responsible, whether it's field marketing or comms or you name it, and almost this like teach a man to fish analogy, and
Yeah.
help folks kind of put that into play. So I would say that's one way to kind of help manage a large organization and ambitions around experiences more broadly.
I love that idea of the approach of teaching someone to fish, but for experience, because I think sometimes we say brand experience, and a lot of us nod along and feel like
Yeah.
we kind of know what it means. But I think there's some fishing teaching that needs to happen there. What kinds of things does that include, or might that include?
Yeah. Well, it really runs the gamut. I mean, I think to start helping folks understand, you really need a strong brief from the beginning and really to align around messaging. Because I think it's easy to, as you either hire the vendors or like get to the executionary stage, forget about the importance of what holistically the vision is for that experience. And so helping folks understand that really whatever they're planning or hoping to achieve should be rooted in this kind of brief and messaging that is harkened back to the entire time. And then I think tactically, we think about how the brand comes to life, whether it's like the first touch point that folks are going to see when they arrive on site. Is it a hand they're shaking, that is a LinkedIn representative? Is it a big, exciting kind of UGC opportunity to capture that content and put it on their own channels? So we think a lot about those different touch points in that context too.
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like a relay too between those teams, because I think of the, teams focusing, I would assume, by audience, whether, members, advertisers, recruiters, and then you've got the kind of the baton coming from brand, and these are kind of the core principles of how we show up regardless of audience, and then almost translating that baton as you hand it off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And lots of office hours, lots of opportunities for folks to ask questions and just, show up to support, because it can be, like you say, different in so many different contexts. And we certainly want to try to be consistent where we can, but also encourage a little bit of that like unique opportunity to speak to a specific audience in a way that matters. So it's a tricky dance that we're trying to really achieve, I'd say.
And you talk about the trickiness of that dance, and we talked a bit about kind of the brief, the strategy. But what does success look like when it comes to brand experience? Is it what we think of with marketing metrics in terms of awareness, conversion, or is it something else?
Yeah, I mean, we could get granular on measurement all day. I think there's a lot to unpack there. But I think at the end of the day, in terms of brand building, it's how did you make someone feel? What is that like anecdotal tidbit that you overhear someone say on site that you can either furiously jot down or earmark for later? Because that is what matters, is how you showed up for that person or that group in that moment in an authentic way that met them in that moment, helped them in some form or fashion, whether it's a job seeker looking to try to, find a job, whether it's a creator trying to build a personal brand, whether it's a partner that you're trying to bring into the fold and help in some form or fashion. I would say really it's like, what's the impression that you left? This is kind of a cheesy quote because I feel like it's used often, but what is the Maya Angelou quote? It's like, it's not about it's not what you said, it's how you made the person feel.
Yeah.
I just think that rings so true across brand, whatever the channel, brand experience, but especially IRL in real life. It's, how you made that person feel and what they're walking away kind of with the perception of that brand. So.
On Brand, we'll be right back after this.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Now, back to the show. I love that application of the Maya Angelou quote as related to brand experience. And it makes me think, you talk about the especially with IRL. And I wonder, for a brand that most think of as an online brand, how do you recalibrate for IRL touch points at LinkedIn?
Yeah. I think you think about the intention of what you're trying to achieve, no matter the brand, at a holistic level. There's a mission vision statement that I feel like everything ladders back up to, and for us, it's like connecting the world's professionals to help them with opportunity. And so when I think about creating brand experiences for our audience, it's exactly that, like encouraging that connection point, whether it's with us, with each other, connection to opportunity. What are they trying to do? And how can we, as a brand experience team, come in and provide that for them? So, there's a lot of experience design and strategy and things that go into it. But I think at the end of the day, really laddering back up to that is how we're going to show up authentically and really make a difference.
So the other part of we've been talking a lot about brand experience, but the other piece of your title specifically is global. So how do you balance some of that consistency that we've been talking about of the LinkedIn brand while also tailoring for different cultural moments or different regions of the world?
It's interesting. I think my favorite kind of example of this is when I was working at Apple, had the privilege of rolling out iPad, iPhone in different capacities. And I spent, some time in China for that iPhone. I think at that time was 5S, 5C. I'm probably dating myself by sharing this.
I've got the drawer of old iPhones right over here. So I've probably got.
Oh my God, you do.
This is where my family deposits the old. I don't know what for, but that's where they live. If there's a museum that you've heard about, but back to your story about the 5S.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's pretty amazing and magical. Keep holding on to those. Who knows, one day these might, mean even more than they do to us now. But I was going to say that, you know, thinking about the experience created in terms of launching an iPhone in the United States, which was predominantly my experience up until that point. But then having the chance to go and have an impact in, a city like Hong Kong, and really having a front row seat at that Apple store, there was so much consistency in how it was rolled out in terms of, obviously there's like the look and feel of the store and the materiality and all of that. But I'm talking literally the talking points of the individuals who were, helping people, managing people, representing, being the front lines, kind of the face of the company, was so consistent. And I just felt like there was so much work behind the scenes, again, to make that seamless. And then, of course, working with localization and making sure like the literal translation of the words and things made sense in that culture. But there was something universal about that rollout that was so special because you had smiles across the board, the same reaction across the board, whether it was like Chicago or Austin or Hong Kong or Turkey at the time, and people were lining up and just excited and ready for it. So I think a lot of the thinking and work we do behind the scenes to standardize and make it seamless really rings true. And especially in that example, with the lines and the smiles and everyone really excited, the excitement around the whole thing.
Well, that reminds me of us talking earlier about kind of measuring the success of experience, and might sound hard to measure smiles, but it seems like that's something.
Yeah.
So you talked about Apple, and I want to jump to another past employer of yours as a means of talking kind of about what's next. Because as we look at AI being everywhere, it's occurred to me recently. We often hold Google up as kind of the gold standard, the modern Kleenex, that it's become the verb of looking something up. And yet at this inflection point where AI is giving search a run for its money. But I also think that what Google is doing recently, just kind of sliding Gemini there into the top of the list, it occurred to me that we're still going to say Google something and it's going to, or there's still it seems like that's the strategy, but AI is returning an AI answer as opposed to a list of Google search items. And I bring that up because I wonder, in terms of AI and the LinkedIn brand experience, is there a similar reshaping of things that folks might look for?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we think about AI a lot in the day to day in terms of like how it's helping us and how it's helping other people. I think the role that brand experience can play in this equation is just continuing to demystify or humanize or really connect the audience to that experience. And I'm no longer at Google, so I'm not sure what they're thinking over there, but I know the practice well enough to know that they're probably thinking, how do we use experiential to like humanize a Gemini, or bring Gemini to the masses in a way that helps them make sense of it, is less, there can be a scary element to AI. Is it going to replace jobs? Is it going to, kind of allay those fears and really show like how to use it? Again, teach a man to fish here, capacity. So, I think experiences has an even greater role to play in these digital kind of days and focus on things like AI. I feel like we're going to continue to see even like more importance around physical experiences, because it's no fun, I think, sitting and worrying about AI at home. So.
Well, it was interesting because as we were talking about AI and all of this is applied to the online brand experience, it made me think of exactly what you said, that it means that our human connection is going to be another piece of that as well, and potentially an even more important piece. So are you thinking at all about how you can plus up the human side, whether that's the human side, because that doesn't have to be IRL. I think that's kind of a false binary that we think to be human, it has to be IRL. There's ways we can convey that with online brand experiences. So how does that reset the experience board?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about that seamless experience again, too. When you're trying to come across in a humanized way, even in digital and real life, like what are the stories we're telling across digital? What are the examples that we're putting forward? Whether it's one of our audience members and a way that they've successfully used it in their day to day, or just it just works again online digitally. I think those are the things that I'm personally putting forward and thinking about, helping folks in their journeys to that digital piece of experience as well. And then I think using things like virtual to bridge audiences as well. So like you said, you've got the IRL component, but how do we think about it more broadly and maybe speak to some of those who can't be in the room at the time, to disseminate information and helpful pieces as well.
So you've described yourself as passionate about building and supporting teams. We've talked a lot here about teaching folks to fish. And it makes me think, actually, it makes me think of kind of some of the lessons in the hospitality side in the show The Bear, of magical experiences for customers and just the work of teaching someone to look for that. And it occurs to me that that's a lot harder than it sounds too. I feel like that's the subtitle of a lot of what we've talked about. But what's the secret to leading a group that can consistently deliver magical experiences?
Yeah, I think that culture is a big piece. I think, showing up in cultural moments that matter to our audiences can be motivating to a team, but also the culture that's created inside the team internally is typically very reflective of the work that they produce that is seen externally. So we're very much, we were right on top of the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift news.
It's going to be my joke answer of, so you mean like Taylor Swift, but you were there. So
I really got ahead of you there. But it's the excitement around those moments and the things that are happening around us that I think we can use to keep ourselves excited and motivated and ahead of what's coming next, and like in tune with our audiences and what's just happening in the world, so that the work that we do and how we place ourselves just resonates so much more strongly in culture and with the people around us. So it's really that internal and external bridge, I would say.
Well, throughout our conversation, I've smiled a lot with our different references and quotes, but it's now my turn, Laura, to get to ask you for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Yes, this might surprise you. I don't know if you're tracking on Build-A-Bear stock, but it is going gangbusters. Have you seen this?
No. This
Yes.
is interesting.
So, and of course, a brand after my own heart with the experience that they create in their stores. I think people have fallen so in love with the experience that is Build-A-Bear. It can ring so true to like the kids in the house, as well as like the elderly, the adults, the middle folk, anyone across the board has this opportunity to go into the store and create this like teddy bear. And don't we all need a little bit of teddy bear right now? But I think that the stock going gangbusters is just an further evidence of the importance of brand experience and IRL experience. I think people truly value it. And so for me to have this chance to see the Build-A-Bear stock going gangbusters, I think I read online they're adding 50 to 60 new experience locations or workshops. It makes my heart sing. It makes me smile. It makes me so happy to see a brand like that who is, tangentially doing similar IRL experiential thinking and work, doing so well in the markets and also have such a bright future.
I love that. It's always fun when the Smile brand connects back to the whole conversation, because of course that is such an amazing brand experience. And as you walk through that with kids, we've been there a bunch. And I think about all the boxes that it checks. You're creating something. You are curating things. If you want to dress it up like a doctor or a Harry Potter character or something. And the sense of community. You're there with friends and family as well. And then ultimately you have something tangible that you can hold close. That's wonderful. Laura, even though I think I might know the answer to this, where can folks go to learn more about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Shockingly, or not so shockingly, LinkedIn would be a great place to find me.
Now say that website again. I'm not sure folks have heard. That's linkedin.com, right? That's
correct. / Laura Parkinson would take you directly to my profile. So feel free to be in touch.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, because I know that's a new website for folks that folks can find at onbrandpodcast.com. Laura Parkinson, thanks for being on brand with us. On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.